Hey, everybody. It's Damone Seraphin, and I am here again with another Black Broadway Men Spotlight series. And we are spotlighting the best of the best in our industry and in our community. And we have not come up slack with our brother and our guest today. And so we're so excited to be able to share these conversations with you and hope that you will continue to follow us, continue to send those responses into those spotlight series that you've seen in the past. And we will promise to continue to bring the best and the best and the brightest of our industry. And so I want to get out of the way and jump right into this conversation with my brother, with my man, Mr. Alton Fitzgerald White. What up, Alton?
And the crowd goes, whatever.
No, the crowd goes wild, and I'm leading. In that I don't know how much you know or what you know about me in terms of my relationship to you or what you have meant to me as a Black man in the industry at large, and then as a brother working in our Broadway community. You have been the map.
Thank you, man.
You really have.
Thank
Um,
you.
it started, I don't know if you remember, Book of the Night.
Oh my God.
I'm a,
Chicago,
I'm a Chicago boy at
oh
the
my
Goodman,
goodness.
and I was a
Wow.
directing intern at the Goodman. I wasn't on that show, but I was in the building and around, and would watch that show every time I could.
Wow.
Um, and
That's
so,
way back, man.
yeah,
This back before I moved to New York. My goodness.
yeah,
Moved to New York. Wow. Book of the Night.
Book of the
Beautiful
Night.
music. Lewis Rosen and I are still good friends to this day. The guy who wrote that
Yeah.
the music and those beautiful lyrics. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Very cool.
that's when it started. Me
Wow.
looking up to you and the example that you were in the industry, and then to find out that you went to CCM. That is the reason I went to CCM.
You're kidding me, man.
Yeah,
You are kidding me.
no,
Wow.
I'm not.
And
So
Cincinnati is my hometown, which is, wow.
yeah,
Yeah. I didn't realize we
so
had those connections, man.
yeah.
So
Every time I see
you're
you,
getting this
Alton,
in real time.
yeah. Every time I see you, it is. I don't. I'm not a big fanner outer, if that's what they can say. But
Mm,
you are one that I hold in high regard, uh,
thank you.
and in high
Appreciate
esteem. So I want to kick this off by having you take us all the way back, because even our sojourn in this game is very similar.
it.
Uh, so why don't you take us back to where it all started for Alton Fitzgerald White?
It started for me in Cincinnati, Ohio, my hometown, growing up in the projects of Cincinnati, public housing, youngest of seven kids, um, the only boy in the household, um, so surrounded by women, and was raised to be very polite and, please, thank you, may I, all those things, uh, which were not very cool in the projects. I was teased about being a polite kid. I was teased about being an effeminate kid. I was surrounded by women who groomed me. My father suffered from alcoholism, and I felt a lot of times I was competing with the alcohol for his attention. And it wasn't until I got older when I was able to find forgiveness and compassion for the disease of alcoholism. But as kids, we think there's something wrong with us. Why is my father paying attention to me? Why is my father rejecting me? Um, but women embraced me. So between being an effeminate, polite nerd, and because with alcoholism, you never really know what to expect when you open the door, you could go home. I loved school because there was order, there was structure, there was, if I did well, and I was a fantastic student, if I turned in my assignments on time, if I got the correct answers, I would be rewarded. And I'm grateful to this day that I was attracted to that kind of validation. Even though I wanted to be one of the other kids who was popular and got along, that rejection forced me into a direction that was ultimately a tremendous gift for me. because something that will never go out of style is education
Mhm.
and good manners.
Mhm.
Those are character, manners are a character thing that opens doors that many people don't realize, especially many younger people don't realize that being able to say please, thank you, to back in the day, we would write a thank you note to someone, to a casting director, to someone who came and supported us in some area. And now it's as simple as a text or an email. Some people don't even know that that's appropriate. They don't even know the value in that. And thank God, I know the value of that to this day. That's what got me to where I am now. It's not just about talent. It is about character. So I got those things early. It felt like rejection as a kid, but um, I thank God for it now. When I was a kid, thankfully, variety shows were on TV,
Mhm.
not competition shows like we have now. There were shows on TV simply to make you smile, simply to make you happy. The Carol Burnett show, the Sunny Share Hour, huge for me. The Flip Wilson show,
Yeah.
seeing someone who looked like me, and then seeing all the Motown artists being interviewed. So while they can sing, they can dance, and they also speak well. I wanted to be like them. They were like my first real role models outside of my neighborhood. So my fantasies in pretending I was them, mimicking them, even though I was being teased about these things, is what helped me survive. The arts and education literally saved my life.
Wow.
I didn't know how I was going to get out of the projects. I didn't know how I was going to get out of Cincinnati. So being a good student helped because gave me access to things. Um, I was transferred to a college prep school in Cincinnati, which took me out of my neighborhood, and it's the first time going to school with white kids. And I was ready because I built enough confidence, intellectually, educationally, um, to compete, and I wasn't really fazed by it.
Yeah.
Um, so then there was a duality of living in the projects, taking two buses to go out to Hyde Park to this incredible school, mixed school, where my first year I was of all the students in the school, they picked two students to interview for a new vice principal. I was new there, but because of my character, because of everything I learned, they were like, "We want you to go through this process." I was
You.
honor society things that a lot of things I was teased about in my neighborhood, I was praised for. So I was kind of prepared, but the duality was still living in the projects and coming home. So as I'm shifting to building my confidence, I'm still dealing with some of the same attitudes. Um, and I'm grateful for it because it showed me there was another way.
Yeah.
Uh, it's so far as singing, um, I was a terribly shy kid, painfully shy, um, and loved singing because I would watch. One thing we did as a family, we would watch the variety shows, and I would see I don't know a single young black kid who grew up in the '60s who didn't want to be one of the Jacksons.
Of course. Of course.
Or I would see them, I see the Temptations, see the Four Tops, and they'd be doing their moves. And I would go to the only spot I had to myself, which was in the projects, was the storage closet. And I would do these concerts in silence, pretending I was them. So singing was really a secret. And I was,
Mm.
and when I do my keynote speeches, I do lots of keynote speeches, motivational speeches, which has become my favorite thing to do, actually, inspiring other people. Um, I open my keynotes singing now. And I would share that this is proof to me and to anybody out there listening that miracles do happen,
Yeah.
that dreams do come true, because I never, ever imagined that I would find the nerve to sing in front of anybody.
Wow. That is
Moments,
so hard to
never,
believe.
oh my God, you don't even understand. It's like when I tell my story, which I got to tell in my book. Uh,
Uh, Listen, you are hitting all the points that we're going to hit. I was about to talk about the multi-hyphenate
yeah.
Alton Fitzgerald White, but you're a writer, you're a public speaker.
Mhm.
Yes, so many things. You're the true
Yeah.
multi-hyphenate. Keep going because I'm just floored by all of this. So keep
Thank
going.
you. Um, but yeah, when I tell my story, when I talk about overcoming my fear of singing, I mean, I joined the church choir I was already kind of ushering at the church. I was kind of drawn to religion early.
Mhm.
I was drawn to spirit, actually. It started off as religion, but then became spirit. There was something attractive. There was something about the stories in the Bible about magic that I clung to. My favorite movies were The Ten Commandments and Wizard of Oz because I believed in the magic. Somehow, as a kid, I knew that Dorothy the Tin Men, I knew that they represented a person. Before I had the words to describe it, I knew that they were aspects of one person to show the possibilities and the balance that we all need in our lives to be successful adults. So I joined the choir because I loved to hear. I joined this church in Usher because I wanted to hear the choir. I finally got some information. I found out you didn't have to audition. I thought, great, I can finally sing with other people. So I'm singing with them, and then, but the only stipulation was that everyone had to do a solo eventually.
Mm.
I was like, I'll worry about that later. So they go around the whole choir, they get to me, and I'm like, I'll pass. And she let it slide, the choir director. Then the next time she was like, you have to do it. And I was just like, I can't. And when I tell the story, I mean, even when I'm telling it now, I feel those same feelings that I felt as a kid of like, oh my goodness, I just can't imagine finding that something in me to share this. I didn't know if I could sing. I love the sensation of singing.
Mhm.
I didn't know what I sounded like. I'm that kid who, when nobody was home, I would, listen to the radio and I would harmonize with what I was hearing.
Mhm.
But I didn't know if I was on tune. I just knew it felt. There was that tingle of when you're singing something and it's
Yeah.
alive. I didn't have words to describe it. It was all a feeling. And she was patient with me. The choir was done with me by the time because I was like, I can't. I'm scared, and I didn't know. I was too. I didn't have enough courage to even admit I was scared. I just came up with excuses.
Yeah.
So finally, when she said you have to do it, I was like, well, can I wait till everybody leaves? They're just like, really, dude? Like it's really that big a deal? But nobody knows. You can't explain your feelings to
Of
anyone.
course. Of
So
course.
she was patient and she let me kind of sing, and I would kind of like sing really soft. She goes, you got to sing louder. And after weeks, she was like, okay. And then now you got to sing in front of the class, in front of the choir. And I was like, oh, and then I did it. And they were like, really? That's all that came out after all that? You know what I mean? You know how kids can be. And I was like, and I remember the Sunday came and I thought, I just don't know how I'm going to do this. How I'm going to stand in front of a congregation and sing. And so I just looked at the ceiling
Mm.
and I did my best. I was a little dizzy.
Yeah.
And afterwards, there was a woman that I befriended when I was ushering, who took a liking to me because she could tell, like, who is this kid who's coming to church by himself? Like, this is
Mhm.
a different kind of kid. And
Mhm.
she came up to me with this look on her face, Damone, like, and she was like, Alton, you have a gift. And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, the quality of your voice. I was like, what do you mean? I didn't know what she was talking about, but she seemed so happy. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow. So that was the first validation I got because I
Wow.
trusted this woman from having seen her every Sunday. And it was like, if you believe it, then I believe it. I don't know what you're talking about, but okay.
It only takes that one.
Really?
It only takes that one to
Yeah.
say there's something special.
Yeah.
I always tell people in that space where it feels like, man, you've been so bruised and so broken, uh,
Hmm.
where you feel like those pivotal components are
Yeah.
missing. Those are the breeding grounds for the majesty of God to
Yeah.
like just catapult you,
Yeah.
and it only takes us being obedient to that yielding, or
Mhm.
to yielding to spirit. That's what it was that got you to the church. That's
Yeah.
what it was that got you into that space. And if we just yield, spirit provides the opportunity to then show us really what that thing is inside of you, that not even the silence or the absence of a parent could destroy.
Right. The
Wow.
tricky thing about that, Damone, is, and I discuss this with friends all the time. Like, what is it that makes, a kid who is born with very little resources become very successful, and the kid who is born into resources not do so well?
Mhm.
And, is it grace? Is it favor? I don't believe it's favor. It's tricky because it really takes that choice. Like you can lead a horse to water, but you can make them drink. So you can give those words of encouragement. You can say, "My goodness, I think that you can do incredible things." But if the person doesn't believe it, because no matter how we can seek out 20 people for advice,
Yeah.
you ultimately have to make the decision.
Yeah.
I still to this day don't know what that thing is because we have been given free will.
Yeah.
And that makes me grateful that, when I look back on my life as a kid who was shy and like, and also I was a young kid a young black boy, when I knew that there wasn't a lot expected of me,
Yeah.
just from the signs I got,
Yeah.
especially in the program in the projects.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for like whether it's destiny, whether you know I decided my journey before I got here, when I was energy before I became human into this plane or whatever.
Mhm.
The whole saying, of the world, in the world, but not of the
But not
world.
of the word. Yep.
Before I was of the world,
Yeah.
was a decision made then. But I'm grateful that somehow I was able to find the courage and be curious enough to um, to be open
Yeah.
to receive the validation
That's
and
that yielding piece, though, don't you think? That's that piece about yielding, though. Like you yielded to that. Whatever it was that led you, you
Mhm.
didn't go the other way.
Right.
You ultimately made a decision
Yeah.
beyond your fear to go, okay,
Yeah.
if you're not going to relent, because you could have chosen to stop coming,
Yeah.
but you
Well, I
didn't.
also got to say part of that is being an Aries. I love astrology.
Well,
I'm very much an Aries. So
uh-huh,
there's that part too.
uh-huh,
I'll be
uh-huh.
60 in 10 days. Woo! Um,
Wow.
yeah, dude, I'm so
You,
excited about being
you
60.
don't look it.
Thank you, man. I
Whatever
am.
that means anymore. Whatever
Yeah,
that
what
means
it means.
anymore.
I know. Especially
Uh,
for us, people who look like us.
right,
Yeah.
right. I'm
Um,
floored by this, Alton, because from the jump, our stories are very similar.
mm,
My birth father died before I was born as a result of drunkenness.
mm,
I didn't grow up in the projects. I grew up on the west side of Chicago.
oof.
Now, my grandparents were prominent pastors, but that was my grandparents, and they chose to have us stay in the hood because that's what
Mm,
the church was.
right.
Um,
Wow.
and so the expectation, likewise for you, what they used to say, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Can anything good come out of West Lawndale?
Yeah, right.
Anything good? And then here is very
Mhm.
much the same. So
Yeah.
I'm blown away from jump, just
Mm,
how interconnected our stories are,
awesome.
our story is. Um, so you make it, you
Oh
make
yeah, I'll,
you
I'll
make
go
it
on from
through.
there.
Someone says,
Yeah,
"Wow,
someone
you
that
got
the, the validation made all the difference in the world. And at the time, I was already at People's Junior High,
it."
and I found the courage to audition for the male solo. That I was. This is back when there was a junior high. I think they call it middle school
Middle
now.
school
We
now,
had
yeah.
seventh, eighth, ninth. So that was
Uh-huh.
junior. And there was one guy who did the same solo, the Lion in The Wiz. He and this one lady, she was in my grade, but he was, I think, a grade ahead or two. So his slot came open because he had moved on to high school, and my teacher encouraged me to graduate, but I went through that same process of like, now I'm with my school kids because church felt safe and like,
Yeah.
and she was patient as well, and went through the hard process. And I finally did it, and I heard that applause and was like, oh wow, people really like it. Then I wound up being admitted into performing arts school, where I went from knowing one person there, still terribly shy, academically ready, but terribly shy. But suddenly I was around kids who were doing it. Like Sarah Jessica Parker went to performing arts.
Yeah.
Nick Lachey went to performing arts. Rocky Carroll, who's been on NCIS forever, he graduated 2 years ahead of me. I was suddenly around other artists who looked like me. And in addition to it being a performing arts school, it was a number two academic school. So it was smart, talented kids. So I found my two worlds had come together,
Yeah.
the academics, and I was able to really explore my creativity because I was no longer, what do you call it? Um, Something that's separate. Um, I forgot. I can't think of the word. Like there's somebody who's really, really different. There's somebody who sticks out. I didn't stick out anymore, you know?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I went from knowing no one to, by the time 3 years later, my senior year, I was voted most likely to succeed. I was prom king, things I thought would never happen for a shy kid who was teased and bullied,
Yeah.
childhood. From there, I was kind of in denial about college. I mean, I was having so much fun exploring my personality
Yeah.
and being in this kind of like fantasy world that I didn't really prepare for college,
Mhm.
even though my academics were good. I wanted to go into the arts, but I didn't know if there was a place for me in the arts. Um, so I registered for Ohio University. I lasted a whopping 3 weeks. And I came back home. I registered for general studies at University of Cincinnati, auditioned for the musical theater department, was admitted, which was a big deal for a Black man, because at that
Yep.
point, I think there were two.
Yep.
Um, and it's funny, one of the pioneers of CCM is on Broadway now, in The Notebook. One of my favorite actors, Dorian Harewood.
Oh yeah, he took over for John Beasley. Didn't
Okay, I
he
don't
take
know
over
how
for John
easily.
Beasley? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know if he's got
I
a
did
great.
not know Dorian went to CCM.
He went to CCM because actually, when we did the CCM, we just did the thing at Carnegie Hall a couple of months ago for Stephen Flaherty, who
Yeah,
wrote Once in Silent. He graduated from
yeah,
CCM.
yeah.
He was supposed to be a part of it, but he had an emergency. And I was like, all I could think was like, I want to meet this dude because I already loved him as an actor. But I remember back in the days when they would do the telethons, they introduced him. I was like, well, what's he gonna do? And he sang, and I was like, he sings too. I mean, gloriously, like that Ben Harney kind of tone.
Yeah.
Was looking forward to meeting him, but he could make it, so I will meet him when I see The Notebook. But anyway, it was hard to get in, which makes me I really appreciate what Dorian must have gone through. So I get into the department, and you have to do juries of boards.
Yep.
Do two a year. Of 6 boards, they failed me on 5. And I was always told, well, we don't really, we know you can do this, we know you can sing, but we need to see you do something different.
Yeah.
They could never give me anything specific. So I remember when I said, okay, I'm gonna let them have it. So and because you have to do 2 contrasting
Yep.
songs. So
Yep.
the first one I did, Maria, you know,
Uh-huh.
I started going to give them tones. And then my second song was The Viper's Drag. And I came out and next to nothing. I mean, I went all the way there. The cigarette as a joint.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna give them. And all the way, you went to CCM, so
I
they,
our
they,
stories are very similar.
yeah,
Keep going, keep going.
all of them, all the teachers have their say, and then the person who heads the department gets the last word.
Yes.
So I'm getting sort of praise, but I'm mostly getting like, basically, we didn't, you're not that kind of Black man,
Yeah.
without saying it. And I'm like, and then the person who runs the department, he's like, I don't know what I just saw. Because I don't even know what to do with it. I don't even know what to say. And I was like, meanwhile, because with the boards, it's like a show. Everybody on campus comes to see the boards because
Yep.
it's like free entertainment. And I'm
Yep.
getting rounding applause, and my class just like, oh my God, they're like, oh my God, finally you're gonna get a pass. And so we're all just kind of stunned. And I remember leaving there just kind of shocked. And several teachers come to me going, you were fabulous. After having said that they just had no comment because they couldn't send him to the head of department. So I was given now a conditional failure, which meant like we're not going to kick you out, but you need to do another board because and it was heartbreaking. It was confusing. And after crying enough, it finally occurred to me. This is why it's important to feel your feelings.
Yeah.
We tend to run away from feelings of rejection, but if you follow through with it and let yourself feel it, you can move through it, and there's something on the other side waiting for you. So
Yeah.
the gift of moving through all of the disappointment and confusion was the realization that they didn't know what to do with me.
Yeah.
Because here I am, I was never cast in a show at CCM.
Yeah.
I'm failed on all but one board out of 6. Yet every summer I'm working at Kings Island in their main show, and I literally got every solo in the show, including the dance solo. I'm doing things for the Cincinnati Opera. I'm making a living doing it in the
Yeah.
summer, but I can't be cast, and there's something wrong with me.
Over in the school.
Right. So once I got that, it was like, oh, take what you can use and leave the rest.
Yeah. Yeah.
It became better. I wound up auditioning. I really wanted to be a dancer first because just before I knew that I could sing, I just loved dancing. But I
This is
kind of
where we
waited.
split the deck, Alton. This is where we split the deck.
So we split.
This is where we split the deck.
We
I
were
am one
so
of
close. We
They
were
made
right
me
so.
dance, and I can do it, but I wasn't like you talking about I really want to be a dancer.
I did. I really
That
wanted
was
to.
not. Can I just press pause here? Because I think there is
Sure.
something in this program, especially when it comes to the Black boys,
Yeah.
but they have a commitment to try to break us.
Hmm.
Because I
They
think,
don't know. They don't understand us.
listen, and they
First of all,
don't know, and
they
they're
can't.
right. They don't know what to do with us.
And they can't do what we do. It's
Nope.
complete. They're dazzled. They're impressed, but they're also confused
Yep.
because they can't control it. They
Yep.
can't monitor it, so they wind up trying to dismiss it.
Yeah. The chairperson of our program, who I think came after you, your chairperson,
Hmm.
uh, I was on full scholarship, Alton, and
Mm.
I was in the lead in the show when this guy put me into his office and
Hmm.
says, "Your dancing sucks, your acting sucks, and your singing is mediocre."
Mm.
And I'm sitting down now. Uh, I've come from a situation where I kind of came through this arts program and was validation was not a thing for me. I certainly knew coming into CCM, and I was already working at the Goodman, already had my equity card,
Hmm.
16.
Oh,
I came in with an agent. Michael Maggio told me I needed to go to school, and Bob Falls and Michael Maggio wrote my recommendation for CCM.
okay.
And
Gotcha.
Benny Lip. Um,
Then they left. Oh
yeah,
my!
that's a
My
whole
first
that's
job.
I
Being
know
my
we're coming
first.
to it. We're
Oh my
coming to it.
God.
But that man said that to me. And so
Yeah.
for my board, because he said I was always too serious,
Hmm.
I chose to do something that was theirs. I
Right.
saw it on Saturday Night Live. It was sung by a white dude. It was funny. I was like, here you go. I'm gonna give you your own,
Exactly.
and you take that and spin on it, whatever you want to do
Mhm.
with it.
Yeah.
But it's the same. But I find that's the thing in our industry.
Yeah.
They don't understand us.
Right.
They want to be like us. They want
Hmm.
our swagger. They want our sound.
Yep.
They don't know what to do with
Right.
us. And so they try to discount us.
Hmm.
And not only did you flourish, you come through CCM, but then you are killing the game in a space where people expected our failure. You are killing the game in a space where folk thought we would only do one thing.
Well, this is where, and I talk about this in my one of my keynotes. I use CCM as an example.
Yeah.
I had a teacher who I will not name, who at one point, because at this point there were two black men in the department and a couple of black girls.
Mhm.
Um, but I remember I was the only black person in class this day, and she's a drama teacher, and she went around because Susan, when you get to New York, oh my God, you got this and this and this waiting for you on Broadway. Tom, oh, this Broadway show, this Broadway show. She gets to meet Alton. Unfortunately, the only kind of shows waiting for you on Broadway are slave type roles like in Showboat. And first I was like, did she just say that out loud to me? And of course it hurt my feelings. But I remember going home and crying because it hurt. I thought, here's a teacher. I'm supposed to respect a teacher. I had held teachers in high regard. I
Yeah.
do hold teachers in high regard. There are exceptions. She was an
Yeah.
exception. But again, once I moved through my pain and let myself really feel it, I was like, wait a minute. That's all she. First of all, consider the source.
Yeah.
She's a wreck.
Yeah.
She was going through a divorce. She's going through a tough time. Still no excuse, but like it's so important to consider the source when you're being criticized, when somebody pulls you aside. Do you
Yep.
respect them? Do you respect their work? Do you respect their work ethic? So after taking that into account, I was like, oh no. Okay, so I'm going to prove to her, I'm going to prove to the school, I'm going to prove to myself that there's more waiting for me than Showboat. I never even seen, still haven't seen Showboat. So I was able to take those feelings of rejection and turn and use it as fuel to succeed. Okay, it became the reason. Let that be the reason.
Yeah.
And that drove me. And I think that's something that we all have the ability to do, especially as Black men, because we are multi-talented, and as artists, we get to use all the complicated things we go through that you can never explain to anyone.
Yeah.
We arts are a chance to expose that to other people, and well, first of all, to heal ourselves, because it starts with us, to heal ourselves and then share it and heal
We say
others.
that again. Say that again. Say that so every brother can hear that. It starts where?
It starts with us.
Yeah.
It starts with us. We use our art to heal ourselves.
Yeah.
Because the most important validation is self-validation.
Yeah.
And then once you validated yourself, then you share it. Otherwise, you're giving it away
Yeah.
along with your power.
Yeah.
You make sure that you're full, like, okay, I got this. All right, let me show you. Let me share it with you. Let me
Yeah.
offer it to you.
Yeah.
You don't give it away
Yeah.
and a lot of times we do that out of desperation, whether it's desperate and trying to book the job, approval, um, validation. Yes, I do belong here. You have to know that already.
Yeah.
A lot of people who are, because they're ignorant to our experience and don't know what to do with that, they get caught up in the dazzle, but then they're like, well, we don't know what to do. But if you come in confident, not cocky,
Yeah.
but confident, knowing your stuff, and you've already validated yourself, everybody's comfortable
Yeah.
because you're comfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of confidence is attractive. And we tend to, and I think if we hadn't worked those things out, and it's different for everybody, confidence can come across as cocky.
Yeah.
But there's a way to do it quietly
Mm-hmm.
and still shine.
Yep.
That's
And you
actually
don't have to diminish anybody else's gift.
right.
Yeah.
And then if anybody has an issue, they know it's their issue.
It's them and not us.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to jump, Alton, because here's another significant connector for us.
Okay.
Because you came through CCM,
Mm-hmm.
and then you made, and I know there were things that happened in between where I'm jumping to,
Mm-hmm.
but then you made your Broadway debut.
Yes.
You made your Broadway debut in Miss Saigon.
Yes. Let me just fill in that gap really quickly.
Yep, go ahead. No, please.
I got a scholarship with Gus Giordano
In Chicago. Come on, bring us to the Chi.
And that was it got me to Chicago. I'd always wanted to live in Chicago. I didn't want to move right to New York because the thought of starving was not attractive to me. I like to eat. So I thought, you know what? I want to go someplace and get some experience first and then go to New York confident, getting some roles under my belt. So from Gus Giordano, I auditioned for The Wiz.
Yep.
Yeah, Lincolnshire, the controversial one.
Yep.
There was a white Dorothy and a white
Susan Moniz, I think.
Susan Moniz.
Yep,
It made national news. Equity got all on it, but it drove the ticket sales. And from there, worked my way through the course to doing principal roles, auditioned for Miss Saigon while I was living in Chicago. And Vinny Liff is the one who called me at 1 a.m. saying, congratulations, you're moving to New York.
Press pause.
Yes.
Because here was another favorite moment of mine. And it just hit me. It just hit me.
What's that?
It just hit me. The first.
Oh my goodness. The first changed my life.
Well, let me just say this to you, because this is all you were the one, Diane Early brought me in to audition as the understudy.
Okay.
I never booked it, but she said to me, you were the one that I needed to watch. Let me just I'm like the memories are, hold on, because it gets better. Diane Early says, you are the one that I needed to watch. My teacher from high school was in London when Miss Saigon first came out.
Okay.
And he gave me this recording of Miss Saigon. He said, you need to know this show. You need to know this show.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm listening to it. Vinny Liff writes me a recommendation for CCM.
Okay.
I auditioned for Cats, and I ditched the dance call because I wasn't a dancer.
Okay.
And then he called me out on it. He not only did he remembered, and he called me out.
Yeah.
So from there, my first big thing was joining the German company of Miss Saigon.
Wow.
I'm telling you, your career has been what are we talking about on Broadway? The yellow brick road. Uh,
Hmm.
like you had Andre DeShields and I walked um, from Hinton's Deming,
Hmm.
walked him home,
Wow.
which was an education in and of itself.
I'm sure a master class every
It
step
really
of the
was.
way.
And one of the things he said to me was, what you all don't realize or what you fail to acknowledge is that I blazed the trail.
Hmm.
He's like, and I dropped things along the way so that all you had to do was
Hmm.
follow the droppings and then make your mark.
Yep.
He says, a lot of you are fighting fights that have been fought and won.
Right.
If you
Already.
don't, yeah,
Hmm.
like you kicking up against the prick at this point. Like,
Exactly.
and so I hear Andre saying that to me, and then my mind, it just went back there. Alton, I had long forgotten Diane Early. And then I'll tell you what's even more, the regional premiere, I did it at the Marriott with Diane and Joe Leonardo.
Really?
I
Wow.
played Joe.
Wow. That's amazing, man. Talk about full circle. Wow.
And it's you have blazed that trail.
Thank you,
You
man.
are a trail blazer.
Thank you.
And I'm not the only one. Me, Nate Stampley, like there's so many of us
Thank you,
who
man.
are who are
I can't tell you what that means to me. I mean, at this
I'm
point,
trying not to cry on this camera because
me too. I'm like, oh, it's like
it literally just hit. I was like, Diane literally with her head shaking like this, saying, Alton, you need to watch Alton.
mm,
Because she had, I think it was Parkinson's, and so sometimes
yeah,
she had
yeah,
that shake going on. I
yeah.
didn't book it. I ended up booking something else at the Goodman, actually, which is
Mhm.
fine. Right?
That I can't tell you what that means to me because Diane, may she rest in peace. I mean, she, Carrie Walker, they saw things in me
Yeah.
because I
Can't
mean,
walk.
I went to an open call for the Wiz. I was in equity, and because I'd heard that if you show up at the end, maybe they'll see you. And I did. I just waited all day, and they were like, okay, we'll see you. And I wound up booking it. And I always tell folks, especially young people,
Oh,
when you book a job, be on time, focus on the work. You're already hired. There's nothing else to prove. It's not about who's more popular. Show up on time. It's the simple thing. Do what you just live up to your contract.
yeah.
That will stick out more than the loudest person over there trying to get attention. And by doing that, I remember, it was I got this equity show. But I was like, don't be equity yet because I didn't know enough. So I was still doing regional stuff. That's when industrials were happening in Chicago, where you can make a lot of money, doing these industrials for companies. And I remember about less than a year later, they did a Vita, which I'd never seen. And Kenny Ingram, Kenny Ingram, who's
I
one of my
do. Any,
first mentors, who never finished a contract. He always booked another job before the show
yep.
closed. He
Yeah.
dropped out and they were like, we have a slot. Do you want it? I was like, well, when's the audition? She said, no, we're just offering it to you. Can you do it? It was because of my character.
Yeah.
And that's what Diane noticed. It wasn't just about my talent. She noticed my character. So I tell young people, your character, there's so many talented people. Yeah. Sometimes it's not being a better singer that's going to give you the edge. It's going to be just being a better human being, a more decent, likable human being will give you the edge.
You are saying that. And the other connection that we have, because you did Miss Saigon, and then you did Ragtime.
Hmm.
I did Ragtime between LA,
Hmm.
Vancouver, Chicago, me and my uncle James Stovall.
Oh, James.
That was James adopted me when I was 16.
Oh, wow.
Um, and we ended up flip-flopping Cole House after Hinton had left.
Yeah.
But I remember James saying something to me while we were in Chicago putting the show into the Oriental. Because Garth used to always ask him to, Jimmy, what does that sound like up there? And James, if he wasn't on stage, because Booker T, he would
Mhm.
run up to the balcony, and I was like, why is Garth asking this man
Mhm.
how this sounds or what this? And James said something to me, I'll never forget this, at the Goodman. He was
Mhm.
understudying George Merritt uh, as Feste, and I was playing Twelfth Night,
Mhm.
and I was playing Viola in Twelfth Night at the Goodman, and he was understudying George Merritt. But he said something to me then, and then he repeated it to me when we were in Chicago. He says, I'm not the most talented man. He says, there are others who can sing circles around me. There are others who can dance circles around me. He said, but people like Bob Fosse, and then later when we were in Ragtime, Garth Drabinsky, he said, they call on me because they can rely on me.
There you go.
He says, I'm the first one there and I'm the last one to leave, even if what they're working on has nothing to do with me.
Yep.
He
Yep.
says, that's what, and so that's why how I am, Alton. Michael Mayer was just making fun of me while we were here. He was like, you're not called. I was like, I know.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm
Mhm.
here, and I'm the last one to leave. And you are so right. Your integrity, your work ethic will very often push you head and shoulders above those who can hit the notes, do the turn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, you model that.
Thank
You
you, man.
model that. So you're sharing this knowledge, but I want to let you know, like your walk, you're not just talking the talk. You're walking it out, and we're following it.
Well, I want to tell you why that means so much to me, because while I was doing it, it felt very isolating. You know, people don't understand that being a principal can be very isolating, and on top of people projecting things onto you, like playing Mufasa all those years. In some ways, people do treat you like you're the father, like you should know more than you're expected. You're expected to know more than you may actually know, just because of the role, sort of art imitating life. So there is a responsibility to not, yeah, I can't go out drinking with the cast. Yeah, you can go and get drunk and have several drinks. First of all, I have to sing tomorrow. I'm not going to be singing with other people. I'm going to be singing solo. So I'm responsible for making sure that my voice is here. And you may think that I'm standoffish. You might wonder why, like, I'm the only principal in the principal hallway who has his door closed. So you can't just come in and out. You can knock and you're more than welcome to come in, but I'm here to protect the work and protect my integrity. First the work, because I signed a contract. This is what I signed up to do. And then my integrity and my work ethic. And as much as I want you to understand, as much as I want to play with everybody, I can't, because I have a bigger picture at stake.
Yeah.
So to hear, to have, and this is something, again, I validated myself, but to hear it from someone else, another Black man, means the world to me, to go, wow, it wasn't done in vain.
No.
People do have these projections that they think they know you based on what your life looks like. And success is no joke. It's like, be careful what you ask for, you just might get it.
Yeah.
And then you maintain it, and then you have to protect it and continue to grow beyond it.
Yeah.
Believe that there's still more. So thank you for acknowledging that. And at this point in my life, turning 60, legacy is becoming very important to me. So thank you for letting me know that I have a legacy.
You do.
It's really nice to know.
You do. I mean, you just opened the door to this question, Alton, as you are rounding up to 60 and you look back over your career that is still in front of you, by the way, nowhere near over until creation says it's over.
Yeah.
I want to know what Alton today hopes for the Altons coming behind him. What's your hope for them? What do you see now that you can speak to those Altons coming? But we're coming out of pandemics. We're still in partial pandemic in terms of social, racial components. We felt like we were making moves in terms of this diversity, equity, and inclusion piece, but now what does Alton, who's traversed this terrain, have to say to those who are coming in back of him, seeing what he sees ahead? You see what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. I'm going to answer that, but one thing I can't skip over.
Yes.
Time is already flying. My goodness.
Oh, we're coming back to Lion King. Is that where you're going?
No. I'm going back to Miss Saigon.
Oh, come on back. Come on
well,
back.
I want to go back. So please, if I go too far,
nope, I got you.
But I definitely want to say there's a couple of things that I think is very important.
Yes, please.
that is a message to those coming up behind me.
Yeah.
The importance of manners and
Mhm.
integrity and character. One thing that got me from Chicago to New York was that I met Vinnie Liff when I was living in Chicago.
Mhm.
Dreamgirls came through. And
Yeah.
Dreamgirls is my first cast. The first album I ever bought was Dreamgirls.
Mhm.
Album, period, not even musical theater. My very first album purchase was Dreamgirls
Yeah.
because the teacher said, you need to look at the show. He just seen New York. He was like, there's something in it in your future. I was like, okay, bought it. And I fell in love with Ben Hardy's voice. The tour came through and it was an audition. I went to an open call and I made it to the callbacks. I made it to the dance call. And then they had me come the next day. And I was like, wow, I can't believe there's Michael Peters giving the combination. And I sing When I First Saw You, which is my favorite song because Ben Harney, I mean, nobody will ever sing that better. And he was like, okay, so how old are you? And I said, 20. And he was like, and I saw the whole team just go. And I was like, what? What? They were like, you're too young. And I was like, no, but you like me. It was like they thought I was older. And I was like, oh man. They were like, you know what? There'll be another time. And I was like, no, this can't be over. I came so close. And Vinny Liff gave me his card and said, no, stay in touch with me. And I took that to heart. So every show I did from that point on, if I got a good review, I sent it to Vinny Liff.
Yeah.
I would mail it with a little letter. So then when I got the Miss Saigon audition, I didn't know he was going to be casting it. I found out and I was like, hey, Vinny, I look forward to seeing you at the audition. So I'd already had a relationship with him. So he was already rooting for me because
Yeah.
as casting directors always tell you, we want you to be the person we're looking for.
Yep.
So chill, relax. Please show up as that version of you that's really comfortable in your home singing in front of the mirror. We want to see that.
Yeah.
Not so scared. We want you to be it. So when I had my audition, I got to sing Bidoy. I came in a suit. I went for the dance call. And I know, of course, my talent got me, but this person already knew of me and I kept that connection. Relationships are important. So I would say to the young people, do not ever discount relationships. Life is about relationships. Show business is all about relationships. And because a casting director or director may like you, but then go, yeah, I like this kid, but nobody knows. Does anybody know this kid? That happened to me with Smoky Joe's Cafe. When I auditioned, you know, every black man showed up for that one replacement. Smoky Joe's has been open for 3 months. Ken Ard booked a film in Europe. Everybody showed up. It whittled down. I'm there at the callback, and it came to me and one guy, and I knew the production stage manager who was like, he sat there. He tells me, he said, you know Ken Hansen. He said,
Yeah.
I sat there like, is Alton really going to book this gig? And they were like, with all this guys, he said, Ken, you've not said anything. Do you know this guy? And he's like, I know Alton. He goes, well, what do you know about him? He's like, well, he's very, very talented, and he's very, he's got great character. They're like, okay, we need to know that somebody knows him because they don't want to take a chance. They don't know if you're going to be high maintenance.
Yeah.
And I wound up booking the job. So
Yeah.
never take that for granted.
Yeah.
Matters, being on time, keeping it as simple as possible.
Mhm.
That is what will get you more and more work.
Yeah.
And you establish those relationships. And getting to Miss Saigon, it was huge for me when Vinny called me 1 a.m. going, hey, you moving to New York, and I sang Bridoy because the song resonated with me. The original John was white.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if they'll let me sing it, I'll sing it. I think because I had the range for it, because Miss Bridoy is not an easy song to sing.
Yeah.
I was like, let me sing this song. I think I'll have a good chance of getting in the chorus. And then, so with the call, he was like, oh, and by the way, you're going to be understudying Hinton Battle, who is playing John. And I nearly dropped the phone because Hinton was like a god to me. So I was like, oh, what? So I remember leading up to the night before I first rehearsed, all I could think about was like, I'm going to meet Hinton Battle tomorrow. I'm going to meet Hinton. Oh my God, what do I say? Oh my God, what am I? And then it was at 890. There was a big meet and greet breakfast for us in the press. And I met some other people. Some people that I met at the audition, and I was like, man, I want to meet Hinton. But I'm scared. I'm scared. Like, what he's really just like, I'm just scared to go and say anything to him. I mean, I feel those feelings again, just being so scared.
Yeah.
And he went to me, he was like, hey, what's your name? I hear people keep saying that this Alton wants to meet. I was like, yeah, Mr. Battle. And he was just so, dude, relax, chill.
Yeah.
So after Hinton won the Tony, he went down to doing 6 shows a week instead of 8. They gave me 2 of the shows.
Yeah.
Even before that, Hinton would let me, I'd knock on his door and I'd be like, do you have time to talk at intermission? It's like, no, it's actually doing act two because, he only sang Bridoy and then he had
Right.
um, and he was like, anytime you want, come. And I would ask him questions about his life, about his career, and I would just soak it up because this man had done so much. So then when I took over, when I got took two of his shows, he was like, "Well, hey, this is now your dressing room too. We'll be sharing this. How you can use anything in here." He was just so wonderful. When he decided to leave the show after the first year, and they promoted me to his role, he helped me. He said, "Make sure they give you this. Make sure they give you that." And he made me promise it. It said, "Don't ever sell yourself short.
Yeah.
Ever. Know your worth." So
Yeah.
that's something that I would pass on to those behind me. And Hinton, I mean, I just can't. I can't. Yeah, I'm working on my second book, and I just finished writing a big chunk about his influence with me. My next
Yeah.
book is about money and relationships with money for
Okay.
creatives and self-employed, and he taught me some valuable lessons. So I had to go. I just had to go back there and give
No,
him
no, I appreciate that
insight.
because
Yes.
again, for me, so I've been doing ragtime. I left Saigon, Germany.
Hmm.
I came to do ragtime LA, and then we went to Vancouver, and then we came to Chicago, where Hinton was coming to open us up in Chicago.
Hmm.
And Stephanie Mills was playing our Sarah.
Right.
And there was all this stuff, and I was like, okay. And so when Hinton and I first met, he was just coming off of all these things. There was all these things. So it was stressful.
Yeah.
Our first encounter was stressful.
Hmm.
And so we had a conversation. I'll tell you the details of that conversation later, but we had a conversation to which he said to me, I like your fight.
Mm.
Don't you hear him? You
Yeah.
hear him. He
Yeah.
said, I
Totally.
like your fight.
Yeah.
Don't lose your fight.
Yep.
Don't lose your fight.
Yeah.
That's what he told me. Uh,
Hmm.
and so again, Alton, so let me just, so you were friends, um, with someone, ooh, and I was just about to say, oh, yeah. And I used to get so jealous that you all had this kind of relationship. Gavin, my friend Gavin Gregory.
Yes.
I used to be so jealous because I didn't have that kind of relationship with you, but you were, how you have those distant mentors, or
Mhm.
there are people again who you just followed,
Yeah.
you know. So I used to get so jealous. Oh,
Oh
you get to
man.
hang out, you go, or you can just, well, I was just talking to Alton. I was like, and then when you took, it was like, it was always so close for me.
Mm.
I never got to do the Color Purple. That's okay. But Saigon, Ragtime, and then you famously took out that tour and you famously took it over on Broadway.
Mhm.
And then when you got wrongfully arrested,
Well, I was doing ragtime. Yeah.
yeah, and it was James who came to fill in for you.
Okay.
James Stovall came uh,
Hmm.
to fill in. Uh, And again, I was mad then because I was like, I wanted to be there.
Hmm.
I wanted to be there
Yeah.
selfishly because I thought, well, then now I'll definitely get to have some time.
That's
With Alton.
interesting.
I
That's
mean, so even with seeing each other, and of course we see each other in the community, and again, I'm not that one to be like, you have no idea how much you miss me.
well, thank you.
We got
Thank
you
you for
pull
sharing.
up.
I had no idea. I had
Oh,
no.
Alton. So when you consented to do this interview, that kid from Chicago,
Mm.
that kid, oh man, I said I wasn't gonna do this. Um,
Mm. It's okay.
that kid from Chicago going to their private performing arts high school where out of 108 students, 5 of us were Black in that school. I was on a full scholarship there. Going to CCM because you went to CCM, following your trail. This you your legacy is long.
Thank you, man.
And we're gonna do this in two parts because I'm not cutting this off. Because now you're doing a thing that I also want to do. I did it a bit for school, PhD, we have to write.
Mhm.
But I said earlier that Alton is this multi-hyphenate. You are an actor, uh, you are a motivational speaker, um, you are an author, you
Yeah.
are a recording artist. Uh, what so we've gotten a glimpse of Alton as the performer.
Hmm.
Incredible. You're Mr. Fire. We say that. I'm circling back to Lion King because that is a historic
Hmm.
moment. I will talk
Yeah.
about that separately. Alton said, I'm about to write a book.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write a book. Where does that come from? Where does that come? Come on, show it to us. And you can get it where? How can we order it?
If you go to altonfitzgeraldwhite.com, because Disney published it, but now I own the rights to this book.
You better talk about business.
Yes, so if you go to altonfitzgeraldwhite.com, you get a signed copy that will be sent to you cheaper than what you would pay on Amazon. It's this, and I also have the audiobook version, which I had the pleasure of reading myself. I'd read books for other authors, but it was really surreal to read my own. This has been nominated for many vocal audio awards. As a matter of fact, Joe Biden and I were in the same category. There were 5 finalists of all the books that came out, that audiobooks that came out that year. Neither of us won, but great to be on the same bill as President Joe Biden.
Joe Biden, President Biden.
Yeah. So my
You,
book.
your book. Tell us about the genesis. Where did it come from?
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess this will then circle us back to Lion King because
Yeah.
what a historic moment.
Well, Lion King was part of it.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd write a book. I thought it like, wow, it would be cool to be able to use all the things I've been through to inspire someone. And I always wanted to do motivational speaking, but I'm still very shy I can be shy when it comes to speaking, and I was a kid who stuttered. So it was another thing
Wait
I
a minute.
thought,
Don't go over that. Don't run over that. You
yeah,
understand that with this voice, with his voice, it's like James Earl Jones.
yeah, but I stuttered. I still stutter. I mean, you once a stutterer, always a stutterer. And
Wow. I never knew that.
yep. So with the book, it was like, and people that told me, Alton, you're a writer, because I would always write all my pattern for my cabaret shows, and like, you just have a good way of putting things together. And I was like, I don't know anybody more impatient to me than me, because we Aries, nothing ever happens fast enough for us. So maybe another lifetime. But when I hit the 4,000 mark playing Mufasa, it was great. Disney made a big deal of it, which I didn't expect because I validated myself.
Yeah.
They're the ones who brought it to my attention. You about the 4,000 mark. And I was like, really? Wow. I said, well, I'm going to do something to celebrate that. And so when they decided to do it, I thought, how cool that I've already validated myself.
Yeah.
So then that allowed me to really enjoy it, not be entitled like, well, I hope they do something. They better do something. No, if it's my thought, I can do that for myself. So then when they offered it, it was icing on the cake. There were articles all over the country. I got calls and emails from all over the world congratulating me. But the common thing that people mentioned was how lucky I was. Oh, you're so lucky to work so long. Disney loves you. You're lucky. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Hard.
I've been working my tail off, sacrificing, delaying gratification to do my art. Luck.
Yeah.
So I was like, so it felt like a backhanded compliment.
Yeah.
So I remember as Mufasa, I shared a room with adult Simba. So at first act, he's pretty much got the room to himself. Second act, I've got the room to myself. And I was like, you know what? I don't type, but let me figure out this word program and let me get off Facebook and let me just start hunting and pecking because I couldn't talk to anybody about it because a lot of my friends were so busy going, oh, you're working, so I couldn't possibly have any other problems, right? People projecting that onto you. Your life must be perfect since you're
Yeah.
working. And I was like, so it made me feel isolated. So I thought, let me just start hunting and pecking. And I would like look back and see, wow, I wrote all of that just by hunting and pecking. So then it became inspiration. Like, I need to write my story. I need to remember, how did I get from the painfully shy kid in the projects to 6 hit Broadway shows and playing
Yeah.
Mufasa? How did they get to this dressing room?
Yeah.
Um, there's also a lot of trauma in my childhood. Like, how did I navigate all that to get here? So I wrote my story for me. It's sort of a diary. But then I shared it with Kenny Ingram. Was the first person I shared it with, because he was my first theater hero. I respected him and I trusted him. And he said, Alton, you should keep writing. I've never seen anybody really explain what we go through as artists. Because at this point I was just writing professional stuff. There was no real personal stuff in it. And then I started sharing with other friends who were not in the business, doctor friends, lawyer friends. They were like, Alton, this is for anybody who wants to do anything consistently well. Keep writing. He goes, I have some young lawyers that could read this, about talking about discipline and resilience. Because I needed to remember, know to really see, what did I sacrifice for this incredible gift? Family time, relationships, vacations, weddings, funerals. I was like, I can't make it. I'll send a lovely bouquet or a gift, but I got to do my show. I got to fulfill my contract. Um, but in writing it, I realized my life was out of balance. I've been blessed with work, but like, I didn't have a personal life. And for me, to be totally honest, which I share in the book, I realized that I was kind of using Mufasa to hide,
Oh,
perfectly hide.
wow.
Costume, all of that.
Majestic.
I can step out of the stage door, nobody knows who I am. And I was like, wow. And then this part of me is going, like, nobody ever invites me anywhere, because they know that I'm going to do my 8 shows a week. So I can't go to that party, the great party with all my friends in Brooklyn on a Friday night, because I've got 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday. I got a 5-show weekend.
Yeah.
So I'm complaining about it and about not being invited. At the same time, I'm hiding. So I'm kind of sabotaging myself.
Yeah.
And once that was made known to me, I was like, okay. So I kept writing. I decided that I was going to, do this. I was going to self-publish it. It was going to be a gift for actors.
Mhm.
Um, and the first title of the book was going to be 8 shows a week is not for the weak.
Mm.
Because people say, oh, I want to get in the show. And you get in the show and realize how hard it is,
Yeah.
and how hard it is to maintain it and still grow beyond it, to find a life outside of it. But then, so I had a meeting with Thomas Schumacher, who had just released a book introducing children to theater. And I said, can I just meet with you? I want to ask you about, when you wrote, did you have help? What was your inspiration? And he goes, well, we could meet, and, are you writing? I said, yeah, I want to write something like a gift to other actors and other creatives. And he said, well, so we met, and he said, well, can I read some? And thank goodness I had some already typed, sent it. He was like, I think Disney might want to publish this. And I was like, and again, going back to validating yourself,
Mhm.
I wasn't at the mercy. I wasn't expecting. I thought, this is my project. This is my dream.
Yeah.
And I have to believe somewhere deep down, I have to have the faith that I have already everything I need to make this dream come true. And as
Yeah.
long as I stay open, the help that I need to make that happen will come. Um, so when they decided to do it, again, it was like, wow, I'm so glad that I was going to do this anyway. So there was some desperation around it. And while we were waiting to get the deal worked out, I had written I had started something 10 years before. There was kind of like a 10 years since the mistaken arrest during
Yeah.
ragtime.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
wrote about things that I grew up with, and what I'd gone through to that point. So I sent it to him, just kind of like, he probably doesn't know this part about me. And he was like, Thomas was like, you're that guy. I forgot that you're the one who went through that. So he was like, it's got to be an inspirational biography. It can't just be a how-to book. It needs to be your story, how you got from the projects to blah, blah, blah. So again, by me initiating it, which we all have the power to do as artists,
Indeed.
um, help came, and a way was made. And I never dreamt that I would write a whole book. And I wrote this book myself. I hunt and pecked every word of this book. I was assigned to an editor um, that spoke the same language. He grew up in an alcoholic household, so he understood. A lot of my childhood resonated with him. So it became. Have you read my book? Well, if you haven't, you will.
Yeah, I absolutely will.
But the book, it's like as I'm telling my story, there's questions at the end of every chapter for you to relive your moments as well. So that you're reading my story, but you're remembering like how far you've come, what you
Mhm.
sacrificed, and also which leads to like all the wonderful things that are waiting for us. I don't want it to just be like, oh, you read my story. I want you to remember your story at the same
Yeah.
time. And that's what naturally led to a speaking career. Um, so yeah, it just kind of, and I never thought I would write a book, but as you said earlier about that opening, I forgot the word you used of we were given free will, but
Oh yeah, yeah. And then you yield.
yielding,
Yeah,
yes, yielding and leaning into that.
yeah.
That's what got me to the favorite thing I do now.
Wow.
And also the thing that pays me more for one of them than Mufasa. I can make more in one speech than a month playing Mufasa on Broadway. One speech. And again, I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm saying that to let everybody who's going to see this know that your story matters. We
Yeah.
are more than just actors, singers, dancers. We're creatives.
Yes.
So there was an author already in me. I yielded,
Yep.
and this
And there it
happened.
is. That's the
And with this book, a speakers viewer approached me and said, "Hey, we see because there's something that comes out when all the book contracts are released." And he said, "Have you thought about public speaking?" I said, "I've always loved to, but I don't really know how." And he was like, "Well, you have everything you need, your experience." And he took a chance on me, and I was like, and at first I avoided the call, but finally we met, and he was like, "Yeah, let's give it a go." And it's changed my life completely. But just being open, being willing.
yeah.
So everybody should write a book. Write it for
Absolutely.
yourself first to remember your story, to remember your history, and then you get to decide if you want to share it or not.
Yeah. It's
But do it for
powerful.
you. Do it for you.
It's powerful. When I was in seminary, I was doing my MDiv at Columbia, and we had this professor, Dr. James Cone. Dr.
Mhm.
James Cone was the father of Black liberation theology. And
Mm.
Dr. Cone had a voice like this, but he could terrify us. You
Mm.
must write.
Yes.
Writing is the doorway to your legacy.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And
I
so
love
those
that. The
seeds
doorway to
your legacy.
yeah.
Um, and so those seeds were planted sitting in his class. So it is a thing. So when I went to the PhD program, I wrote something because you have to, you have dissertation
Mhm.
for a PhD. But then there are parts of this book, this story, that have been sitting in my gut.
Mhm.
That again, you're an inspiration to go, yeah, I can. I grew up in that dynamic that said, yeah, you can.
Mhm.
So what you gonna do,
Right.
right? And so I'm grateful for your yielding. I'm grateful for you saying yes and then showing up.
Yeah.
We started talking about this, and like I said, everybody, we're gonna do this in two parts. So we're not missing out on anything. Um, 4,000 performances as we.
4,308.
Here we go. 4,000. Don't let me shortchange it.
4,308.
4,300. There are some who can't
Yeah.
even make it to 100.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Can you talk to us about that? Talk to us. You did the tour first?
Opened the national tour, which was amazing because it took them 5 years to figure out how to tour the show. I mean, Lion King really is a phenomenon. Even the people who put it together are still like, we can't believe that it's what it is. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing. Like I got to be performing the first D23. D23 is a big Disney, like it's like Comic-Con for Disney. They do it every two
Uh-huh.
years. And I performed at the very first one. I didn't know what it was at the time. Now it's become huge. And they flew me to California, to Anaheim to sing They Live in You with a local choir. But I was like, you know what? Let me go to a little talk back before, because I wasn't even going to go to a little panel discussion. So they had all the people who put it together, and they're talking about putting Lion King together. And they're like, there was nothing expected of them. Sort of like as a young Black kid, they're
Yep.
like, they had Disney animation was just now coming back to life. nobody really wanted to work on the Lion King. So it was like a bunch of like, I won't say misfits, but they're like, there was nobody really monitoring them. They were like, okay, they're over there doing that. So when it became what it became, because there was nobody looking over their shoulders,
Yeah.
they were like, what the heck is
Oh.
happening in the world right now? And then, for Michael Eisner to go put it on stage, they're like, what? Beauty and the Beast, okay, but this is a stretch. And then for that to become what it's become, so
Yeah.
it's really cool to see, um, to learn from that. It's okay if people don't expect a lot from you. Do it anyway.
Yeah.
Listen to your own gut, listen to your own instincts, create your own art, build
Yeah.
it, and they will come.
Yeah.
So I had to mention that because it's cool to be, that my phenomenal career with Lion King came from, the base of a phenomenon.
Yeah. Yeah. Of which no one expected anything from.
No one expected. So, when it came time to tour, they're like, how do we move this thing around the country? So it taking so long for it to happen. We opened in Denver and there were lines around the corner. Everywhere we went, it was like we were rock stars because the middle of the country was waiting. If they couldn't get to New York and there was an LA company at that point, they were like,
Yeah.
when is it coming to us? So it was great to be a part of that.
Yeah.
That first tour, and those were lifelong friendships that we've made.
Of course.
The Chill Gazelle company, and then to come in to replace the Sam Wright.
Big
The
shoe. Big
Right.
shoe.
People say great things about my Mufasa, but I'm like, he will always be Mufasa to me.
Yeah.
I will always bow down to Mr. Sam Wright. I tell you, before I even saw the show, and I had some things against the show because I was doing Ragtime on tour.
Yeah.
They were doing when they were on up for the Tonys, which is unusual.
Yeah. We were in Vancouver.
Right, which is very unusual, folks, for a show to be touring
Yep.
even before the Tonys.
Yep.
But that's how much faith and arrogance that Garth Drabinsky had in Ragtime.
Yeah.
So I remember being at the, we had our show and everybody there was a cast party to see the Tonys. And, we saw, they would win one. Lion King win one, then Ragtime, then Lion King. And we're waiting for Best Musical, and Lion King took
I
Best
think
Musical.
got it.
So I was like, this show, puppets, what? So then but even before that, when the soundtrack came out, I remember loving the score, but when I heard Sam Wright's voice, it was like hearing Ben Harney's voice
Yeah.
saying, "When I saw you."
Yeah.
So to replace him was as powerful as replacing Hinton in
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. I remember seeing you as Mufasa and just being mesmerized.
Thank
I'd
you.
seen Sam and I loved Sam.
Mhm.
But I remember just going, what can't this brother?
Oh man.
What can't he do?
Thank you.
And what the beauty of that role is all of the colors you get to play.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
all of those colors
And
that
I tell you,
uh-huh.
sorry, and I tell you that was when I first saw the show. I remember thinking, "Oh my God, Sam is great, and he sings that beautiful song, They Live in You." But I remember thinking, I couldn't do that show because he doesn't have enough to do.
Oh,
Process enough to do, and I remember thinking, "Oh," and it was then when I booked it, I thought the hardest thing is going to be for me to like not be on stage. So it was really I had the gift of doing it. I mean, I did Lion King from my 30s to my 50s, off and on, not consecutively. I left to do other shows and then came back, but. So I got to start it like, this young guy who was like, yes, I want more to do. And then step away and then come back with more maturity. So by the time I came back, because I'd open the national tour, came into Broadway, left to do Mr. in the Color Purple. They invited me to open it in Vegas. So I got to bring some more to it. And then when I came into the Broadway company, I was like, oh, now I understand why he's given so little dialogue. A lot of it is just his stature.
yeah.
And I had enough life experience to really settle into that more and that kind of quiet authority. Like, yeah. So it was really a gift to have the journey that I had with it and to be able to really grow into it.
Yeah.
And change him some, but in subtle ways, because you always have to honor the material, but just deepen my version of him was a tremendous.
I mean, it was magical to watch.
Thank you.
Again, as one who has, I guess, patterned my career after yours, So funny thing about Lion King, I'll never forget. Oh, oh, the casting director.
Uh,
Oh, it's gonna come to me.
yeah, I've heard it so long. Mark?
Mark Brandon.
Yes.
They were determined to make me Simba.
Mm,
So I looked like a Simba. I sounded
Mufasa. Oh, yeah.
like.
Yeah.
So when I'm singing, I know that they were like, just lighter, lighter. He's just like, I, I, I,
Yeah,
I,
that's
I,
what it is. It is what it is. Yeah.
yeah. So Lion King never Germany, because I had forced this career in this president of Germany. I had an opportunity to go back to do Mufasa in
Mhm,
Germany. I never went back because at this point I had kids and blah
mhm.
blah blah. But again, you are the roadmap. So this question that I'm gonna ask,
Yeah.
uh, what's next for us?
That's for us.
What's next for us? What is next? What is next for Alton? Alton has written books. Alton is a motivational speaker. Alton is a celebrated performer. What's next? What?
Alton loves TV and film. What's next
Uh-huh.
for me, what I would really love, I would love to be a series regular on a hit show with people who really enjoy working with each other and telling the story. And I've learned to be specific about that because I've done over a dozen guest spots on TV shows. I've done major motion films. I've acted opposite Nicole Kidman, Sam Elliott, Marsha Gay Harden, Oscar winners, which were incredible experiences. But I feel like I'm ready to be a part of a group,
Mhm.
and in being on set, I've learned, especially with series, I've learned how fast things move and how important it is that the people like each other because you spend so much time together. So I've learned to be specific. Like I want a group of people who love telling the story, who can focus on the work and the story we're telling, and I want it to be a hit. I want it to be something that means something, and a character that I can really dive into, someone that I can really do service to.
Yeah.
Um, that's what I want. Theater, and I never thought I would say this, and I can imagine myself doing the show again. I never in a million years thought I would say that. But all of my theater dreams came true.
Yeah.
For many years when I was younger, I thought, I want to be nominated for a Tony, blah, blah, blah. And I tell you, I learned a hard lesson. I run into someone who, because I was at one point I was like, man, I've been doing Lion King so long, and people won't see me as anything else. I was still thinking about career, the
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And I ran into someone who'd been out who'd won a Tony, either won or nominated. And they were like, man, you don't know how blessed you are to have a steady job. And I was like,
Yeah.
but you got this reputation. He was like, no, you get to work. And then I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I've been spending so much time going, what's the next show? What's the next thing that's going to give me attention? And it was ambition, but it was also ego, which we
Yeah.
need in the business. Like,
Yeah.
because getting that next role can be, because I'm always thinking about what's going to lead to the next. How can I connect this one opportunity to a next? But having that conversation made me go, wait a minute, let me stop and smell my own roses.
Of course.
Let me not focus on what's next. Let me just enjoy the fact that I get to do what I love to do on a regular basis. Beyond the pay, I get
Yeah.
to exercise my craft
Yeah. Yeah.
on a regular basis. And also, if I did win a Tony, I wouldn't have been able to, it wouldn't have been appropriate for me to do Lion King all those years
Yeah.
and make all the money I saved
Yeah. Hello.
and put into retirement to prepare for a future. I knew,
Ooh, hold on right there. Press
yeah,
pause. I'm gonna press pause because I want to talk about that. Give me
okay,
1 second. I'm pressing pause. We are back. Alton, we were in the middle of a thought. Come on back.
yes.
You remember where we were?
Yeah, we were talking about, you asked me what's next.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
you were saying it would be unfair or not wise to win a Tony and then stay in Lion King.
yeah, back in the day, yeah.
And you said something very interesting, and I want to press into this too because there's so much about your life and career that is educational for us. You said it would have been unfair to have won a Tony and then stayed in Lion King all all of those years,
Not unfair.
not unfair, unwise,
It would have been deemed inappropriate
inappropriate. There we go.
because it's almost like when somebody wins an Oscar. I remember Halle Berry is a good example.
Yeah.
She won the Oscar for Monsters Ball, and then she did the Catwoman movie, which I thought was fun.
Hmm.
But they were like, "No, you've won an Oscar, so now certain things are expected of you."
Yeah.
The thing is, it's like she's still a black woman with limited opportunities, just because that's how the world is. So if she's not offered, this British whatever, highbrow whatever, what's she supposed to do? Not work? So we're going to criticize her, like put her on a pedestal, but like you can't do that. You're an Oscar winner now. It was very similar with being a Tony Award winner or
Yeah.
nominated. Now that you're in this category, you can't go back. You can never be in the chorus again.
Yeah.
And this person was kind of basically saying to me, like, I can never be in the chorus again, even though I could use the money because I have this Tony nominated Tony winner. I can't just go do anything. Career-wise, it wouldn't look good.
Yeah.
Even though I need the money and have a family. And I thought, and that got me thinking, Alton, be where you are. So where I went from feeling like, oh my God, I've been in Lion King too long, and like, yeah, I'm working, but my career, I was like, oh no, I'm good. I'm paying my bills. I'm preparing for my future.
Well, you said something, Alton, and I think this is the next lesson that you can teach us. You said with all of the money that you were able to save, with all of the money, brothers, he
Yes.
was able to save as a result of his time. You are writing a book. I think your second book, you said this time, is about money.
It's about money. Yeah.
Can you talk to us? Because we talk a lot about the lights and the costumes and the music and all of the accolades. There was an actress who did not realize she was nominated for a Tony Award. And she was doing this show and nominated for a Tony Award, but her cell phone had been turned off.
Wow.
In a hit show, nominated for a Tony, didn't know she was nominated for a Tony because her cell phone
was turned off. Yeah.
Can you talk to us about the business? You're writing a book about, and you said it's going to be about money.
Yeah. Well, let me go back to one thing first.
Please.
With Lion King, just kind of piggybacking off of what I said about reperceiving my time at Lion King.
Yeah.
From like, oh my God, I've been here too long, to like, oh no, I'm making good use of my time. I'm making money, and the gift is I get to do what I love to do on a daily basis and get paid for it. Different levels of gratitude. I was like, okay, having been here so long, and however long I choose to be here, because I was still in the middle of it, I was like, I want solid things to show for it.
Yeah.
Not status symbols.
Yep.
Not a car, not clothes. I'm going to enjoy those things, but I want something tangible, like a healthy bank account, like retirement funds, like a future. This is an opportunity. And it wasn't until I had this conversation with this person, I really realized, oh my goodness, I've been building, I've been given this gift of being able to really plan a future and have a real life and not be a starving artist, be a thriving artist. I always say that if you're talented, you always work somewhere, but careers need to be crafted, which means you got to be able to afford to say no to that opportunity.
Oh, say that again.
You got to be able to afford to say no.
No, put that hook on there. You said you're talented. You'll always be able to find work somewhere.
Yeah, but careers need to be crafted.
Ooh.
Yeah, and a perfect example of there have been times when I've taken a job and I'm like, man, I want to do this show, like I want a root canal, but it's paying me a lot of money. It's a tour. I'm going to be able to bank my salary and live off of my per diem, the business part of it. So then when that opportunity came along that maybe didn't pay me as much money, I could afford to do it.
Yeah.
Because this thing was going to get me reviewed. It was going to be a better part. I get to stand out and really have that creative thing satisfied and be seen in a different light. You need money. If you're auditioning because you need the money's always going to be the focus. Yeah. Your creativity is going to be on the back burner.
Yeah. Yeah.
because you need to eat.
Yeah.
So when you're working, you save so that you can have those choices.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's what I did. That's
Yeah.
what I did. And this conversation with this person really was like, okay, I have money in the bank, but now I have a reason. That kind of like, it gave me a different fuel. Like, I'm not just working to pay my bills, I'm working for my future.
Yeah.
Whenever I leave this show, because
Yeah.
there'll be many times, like on a Saturday night, I'd be like, man, another Saturday where I've done two shows. I've spent the whole day in the theater. My friends are all having, you're walking through Times Square and folks are having dinner. You see people coming to the theater. It's like, man, I'm doing nothing but working. But one day, when I decide to get off this train, or when I
Yeah.
decide to get off this beautiful ride,
Yeah.
I will be sitting in some cafe at 8 o'clock going, this is why I worked my ass off. This is why I
Yeah.
thought up all the projections they're projected onto me. This is why I dealt with the silent solitude and isolation that comes with having done this role.
Yeah.
I will have things to show for it, and that's the life I have.
That I
Um,
think uh, that's the thing they don't teach us
you
in the
know,
dormitories.
yeah,
That's the thing that no one really sits down with us to say. I had a conversation with someone very similar to what you just said, and I said this to someone. Um, at some point, you have to build a nest egg so that you don't have to do the thing that you don't want to do.
exactly. Freedom,
Yeah,
options.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh, Another thing that influenced me was, there was an actor who had done many shows, and I watched this person go from the chorus to a principal role and then back to the chorus. And I was like, wow, you went back to the chorus? I mean, like, real chorus. And I was like, and I watched this person mature, and I was like, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to be in my 50s dependent on 8 shows a week. I'm not going to do that because we work too hard. And so that's when I first started thinking about how can I diversify? How can I find other streams of income? What other kind of creativity exists in me that I can monetize?
yeah,
And I was able to use those two examples changed my life. They changed my perception. They gave me a different kind of purpose.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's so important for us to do that.
yeah. Because I mean, who works harder than us? Nobody will ever understand, even a family member. If they're not in the business, they will never understand show business, but they
Yeah,
would definitely never understand 8 shows a week. They just won't get it.
yeah,
And they're not supposed to because it's supposed when they sit in the audience, like every other audience member, they're supposed to be taken away and detached. They're
yeah,
not concerned with how hard you work. They see the glory and they think after every show there's a champagne toast.
yeah.
You
What
know,
what are the practices? What are those practices then, Alton? Can you share with us
Mhm.
that have set you up for this freedom that you're experiencing now? Can you walk us through? You get a contract, and what are the decisions that you make that allows you to sit in that cafe now and go,
Well, my book that I'm writing. I'm telling my story. I'm telling my story from growing up in the projects with limited resources and where money was worshipped.
yeah,
It was either worshipped or demonized.
yeah,
There never seemed to be enough of it. And then growing up with that mentality, especially coming out of the projects, and then knowing that I've got to work hard as a black man. It's gonna be harder. That's what the message we get. You're gonna have to work extra and go, okay, I can do that. And then doing that and then making money, but then having it on a pedestal because I was afraid of it. I had a terrible relationship with it because I was told you have it, but you only use it in case of emergencies. And adults always talked about there being some emergency and they're not having enough of it. So I
yeah,
took those things into my young adulthood. And then I would go to these extremes of like denying myself basic things, but having money because I was like, I don't have a reason to touch it. So then I wound up subconsciously creating an emergency
yeah,
just to touch this something that I've worked so hard for.
yeah,
So over my career, I've been able to really, through therapy, through tapping into the courage to ask questions, which we tend to be afraid to do and have shame about
yeah,
as men, as black men,
yes,
creatives. We think, well, a lot of us as black boys are raised to believe that we should already know. And if you don't know, instead of tapping into the courage to ask the question and get the information, you demonize it or you dismiss it.
Yeah.
F it. It's not that important anyway. It is
Yeah.
important.
Yes.
So moving through all of that allowed me to go, okay, let me talk to people I trust. Let me see people who seem like they're doing well. Let me ask them how they do it. And some of them were faking it till they make it. And some of them are really, really like knew where every money they spent, every penny they spent went. And they were deemed cheap and penny pinchers, but they're the ones who were talking about IRAs and investments before I even knew what those things were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, they had enough nerve to go, you can think what you want, but guess what? In 20 years, I'm going to be here and you're going to still be trying to get
Yeah.
what we're doing right now. So I eventually tapped into my courage and asked friends, asked, if anybody had a good advisor. And every advisor I've had in my life, I've let them know. I've done some research because you got to do your own research. But I need to be taught. So I'm going to ask a million questions. Some of them I will ask again and again until I understand. And I found that every financial advisor I've worked with, including the one that I've been working with for over 20 years now, he's like, Alton, I love it. Because I know people who are like, have zillionaires who don't have any kind of discipline financially. They don't ask the questions that, they leave it all in my hands. You should know where your money's going.
Yeah.
So, and it's like with any agent that you have, any manager, whether it's financial, even in the business, you have to manage them.
Yes.
You can't trust
Your
someone.
business.
You got to ask certain questions. Did you submit me for this? Okay, well, what did you find out? Can you get me feedback? You can't just go, well, it's there in their hands. It's your career.
Yeah. Yeah. It's your business.
So that transfers over to the finances. So for me, it was, admitting that, wow, I have a terrible relationship with money. And the other extremes, I would go from denying myself to, like, if I saw a beautiful cashmere sweater I loved, I'd get it in every color. And feel like, yes, I deserve this. And then they would sit in boxes because I'm waiting for the right occasion to wear it.
Wear it.
Which meant I love this.
That's so funny when that happens.
Did you do that?
No, I think you did it.
Did I?
I think so.
Okay, maybe because I raised my voice, but I didn't touch anything.
I think it's funny when it happens.
Yeah, I was like,
I haven't figured out how to do it whenever we do this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. But all of that, I was like, this is not good. I need to figure this out. I need a relationship with this. I need to form my own relationship. So through therapy, I was able to get other voices out of my head, the adults' voices the voices of lack that I grew up hearing, and even my peers who were like, why are you so cheap? Why don't you do this? You should be X, Y, and Z. You're here now, so you should be looking this way and dressing this way and shopping here. And then realizing and trying it, but then realizing I don't get a high from that. I like being specific. And also we get to define what success is to us.
Yes, because a lot of times the people with the opinions are the very ones who are not the least bit. I'm not trying to dog nobody, but
yeah,
they're the ones sitting and wrestling in lack, trying to tell you what to do with your plenty.
You got to always consider the source. Who's saying? And I used to have, early I would have judgments about people who stayed long in shows, or stayed in shows for a long time. And then I realized, wow, for some people, success is getting in a show. And I realized some of those people have bought homes, they put their kids through college. So different things mean different things to different people. And you have a right to perceive it any way you want to. But it will really help if there's some kind of planning for the future is involved for yourself.
Yeah. I remember being in the LA company of Ragtime, and I would walk by John Rubenstein's dressing room, and his computer was always open, always checking those numbers.
Yeah.
Watching the markets, moving investments. I asked him, I said, what are you doing? He was like, this is the other part of the business.
That's right.
Jeanette Bayardell. Ooh. Genius.
Yeah.
With money. I had another friend of mine, he was a Jewish brother, and he said something to me. I was younger, but it stuck with me. He said, multimillionaire, real estate, law. He said to me, do you know what kind of car I drive? I said, I don't know what kind of car you drive. I drive a Toyota Tercel.
Tercel, yeah.
What? Toyota Tercel? He says, do you see the clothes I wear? They're not name brand.
Mhm.
Okay. He says, you don't have to show people that you have money. He says, the problem with your generation is that you get a little bit, you act like you have a lot, and then you end up with none.
Because you're living beyond your means.
Yeah. Yeah. This multimillionaire who owned
Yep.
real estate all over Chicago.
Mhm. But he probably travels the world,
Yes, he does.
stays in the most beautiful places.
Yes, he did.
And he's probably having experiences as opposed to tangible things
Yeah.
that appreciate as soon as you take him out of the store or
And
drive.
wasn't stressed. It wasn't stressed about it.
Yeah.
I think
So
we have to learn these things, Alton, and this is why the Spotlight series is so important to me. Yes, we get to hear and know about the glitz and the glamour and all that stuff, but you are brothers, you are one who has amassed and has been able to kind of live in a space where many of us can only dream right now.
mhm.
But you
But
said it.
that's why I'm writing the book.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is so I'm glad we're doing a two-parter because there's so much Alton to glean from your journey.
Mm,
There's so much for us brothers to look at beyond the lights, beyond the esteem, is to
mhm,
know, no, here's a full human being who is orchestrating a full life. And this career
mhm,
has been a great means to do it, but a
mhm.
lot of us squander it.
Right.
A lot of us squander it.
I remember when we opened uh Lion King Las Vegas. And it was pretty much a new cast. Like most of the cast had never done the show before. Especially a lot of the dancers. And this is back in 2007, right? It was during the stock market crash when like the Dow, which is now at almost 40,000, was down to like 7,000. And I kept saying, kids, I know it's your first big check. Get your Prada, your Gucci, get this stuff out of the way. But if nothing else, open a Roth IRA.
Yeah,
Start your retirement now.
yeah,
And Roth IRAs are free money. It's the only retirement account that you can take money from and not be penalized.
yeah.
And I said, once you start contributing to it, you start watching those numbers grow, and you realize, oh my God, I'm not just working for myself, I'm working for my future. And I said,
Mm,
my financial analyst or my financial planner is willing to work with anybody here because I know it's new money, but this is an opportunity.
yeah,
It's a long running show that is going to run. So we don't get these.
yeah,
We get, this is our first Les Mis. This is the first, yeah, black version of Les Mis and all those shows that came over from Europe that had one of us,
yeah.
Les Mis. We were happy when there was one light-skinned black person cast. I
Yep.
said, now they're not all like this. So do it. I don't know that any of them listen to me. All you can do is offer it.
Yeah, but you know what you did? You know what you did? But you opened the door.
Yeah, which is all one can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what Andre was saying. You blaze the trail, you dropping crumbs.
Yeah. And some will pick them up and some won't, because we
Yeah.
all have our own journey, but providing the option made me feel good. And it's a lot of those kids went on to the Broadway company, and hopefully at some point they realize, okay, yeah, I want something. They had their own, it happened in their own time. But yeah, it's about we need to believe that we have a future to plan for as black men, as talented, creative black men. And I often wonder, like, why don't some of us save? And I know a lot of it is financial ignorance. I know a lot of us we don't grow up at the dinner table discussing finance like some other cultures may. But if nothing else, believe that there is a future worth planning for.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Wow. Alton, this has been such a joy. We literally have two parts.
wonderful, man.
Two parts that we can share with
I'm
our
glad.
brothers. I want to give these last few moments to you to share with us anything that's on your heart that you think that you would deem important for us to know as we are moving forward. Um, I'm releasing this to you.
Yeah, thank you, man. I just want to say I want to mention again that we're more than actors, singers, dancers. Some of us are directors. There are directors in here. There are writers. There are speakers. I mean, my life is beyond my wildest dreams. I mean, I dreamt a lot as a kid, and reminder, dreams are free. Dreams are a
Mm,
gateway to your destiny that's waiting for you. It starts with the dream and believing that you're worthy of it. That's a catalyst for it coming for the signs appearing. But when you ask me about theater, like I never, ever in a million years thought that I would not want to do theater again. I thought this is my life, this, 8 shows a week. But by yielding, I was able to go, wow, there's other things around here. But just allowing that opening and peeking through and going, I've never written anything, but like, wow, writing, like I get the satisfaction of like, wow, look at what I'm doing for myself. I'm reminding myself of my own story. And then the more I did it, the more it became a meditation. The more so it went from dreading it to like, I look forward to like going into this zone for me,
mm,
service to myself, remembering my own story. And then sharing it has turned into this whole other life that has become more powerful than me wanting to do 8 shows a week. Now to the point of like, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know if I want to work that hard. I know what it takes. I know because I've been offered things and I go, okay, yeah, that means 8 shows a week. That means eating dinner at 11 o'clock at night. That means no social life. That means like I got to really protect my voice because all this stuff going back into the cocoon. And I think I would do it if it was something that was worth it. So I've gone from like, oh my God, I hope I get it to like, is it worth the commitment that I know that I'm going to bring to it?
yeah.
And the only thing that I've seen that made me even consider that was when I saw Mr. Andre de Shields in Hades, and I thought, no, that would be worth it. Because like he made me think, oh wow, I would love to do this. Oh, I would love to do that. That is the only thing that's happened since I left Lion King that made me even consider it. And it's because I built such a beautiful life a surprise beautiful life outside of the cocoon of 8 shows a week that is taking me beyond my wildest dreams. So anything is possible. There is life beyond 8 shows a week. It's great. And if that is your service to do, but there's going to be consequences with anything that you commit to. Make sure those consequences are worth it.
Wow. Wow. Well, what a treat. What a treat this has been. And on behalf of Black Broadway Men, we want to say thank you.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. I mean, thank you for asking me to do this. I had the wonderful pleasure of being one of the of that first group of mentors, mentoring young up and comers, and that was one of the best things I ever said yes to.
Wow. Well, thank
Marquette.
you.
Yeah,
Well,
my pleasure, dude. My pleasure. I'm happy to
thank
be.
you. And to those of you who are watching, listen, thank you so much for tuning in with us. Stay tuned for more conversations. Stay tuned for more activities and moments to gather with Black Broadway Men. Until next time.
One more thing.
Yes,
AltonFitzgeraldWhite.com. My book, my CD, any upcoming appearances. I love to hear from you.
please do that. Please do that. Bless yourself. Bless a friend. Bless a brother. Do it. Lots of wisdom, lots of nuggets, I am sure. I know because I'm following. So do yourself a favor. And again, we thank you on behalf of Black Broadway Men. Much love and good day. Peace.